Hello, my babies. As I've mentioned, this is your girl, MamMaJ, aka MamMaJ. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and you are listening to MamMaJism. Thank you for deciding to listen in on this talk of love and honest conversation. So let's get into it. If you are new here, welcome. But also, you probably aren't familiar with the term non-judgmental thinking. This concept was introduced in episode 44 of the podcast while doing a mindfulness and self-esteem 7-week challenge. To begin, non-judgmental thinking is when you don't attach good or bad to a single thought. In this episode, we will be revisiting non-judgmental thinking, but from a different aspect. By the time you finish this episode, you will hopefully think a little differently and be encouraged to approach situations with non-judgmental thinking. All right, let's hit it. Okay, we are going to start this episode off with a story that sparked this revisit in the first place. This is an old Taoist story that was used to teach a very important life lesson. There is a Taoist old story of an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day, his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. "Such bad luck," they said sympathetically. "Maybe," the farmer replied. The next morning, the horse returned bringing with it 3 other wild horses. "How wonderful," the neighbors exclaimed. "Maybe," replied the old man. The following day, his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown, and broke his leg. The neighbors again came to offer their sympathy on his misfortune. "Maybe," answered the farmer. The day after, military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army. Seeing that the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. The neighbors congratulated the farmer on how well things had turned out. "Maybe," said the farmer. After reading that story, what did you learn? I hope one thing that caught your eye is that nothing is set in stone. I want you to think of this as that puzzle analogy. If you're familiar, when you're like doing a puzzle up close, it's hard to see what the puzzle is about until you take a step back and see it in full. I feel like that's the same thing that happens in our lives when different situations occur. We place good or bad on a situation without fully knowing what the end result is really going to be, which is fair because, if I'm hit with some bad news, of course I'm going to assign it as bad news if it's bad to me. But more times than not, when I look back on a situation, I realize oh, that actually turned out better for me than I thought it would. And that is why this story made me think about something that happened in my own life that I'll briefly talk about. I think I might have mentioned it on the podcast before, but my freshman year in high school, I was a part of the freshman basketball team. I was not good. But as the season progressed, I guess I got a little bit better. I got good enough to the point where at the end of the season, when we had our end of the year banquet, I won the award for most improved. So that boosted my confidence completely. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try out for JV next year. So my sophomore year rolls around. I go to tryouts for JV, and I also try out for ASB, which is Associated Student Body, which I don't know why I had to try out for that, but it wasn't the same process, but I had to try out for it. So there was a chance that I wasn't getting in. So the day finally comes that I get the news if I make the basketball team or not. Unfortunately, find out that I did not get it. And of course I was crushed because I'm like, but you told me that I improved. Isn't that automatic in, But thankfully on the same day I got the news that I did get into ASB, which is 1,000% more my speed. And looking back, it was just funny because I got hit with bad news and then I got hit with good news, and ASB ended up being the best alternative for me and really shaped my high school experience. But I wanted to share that story because for a moment, getting that no from JV basketball was like terrible, because I'm like, well, dang, I want to be a part of school activities. I want to make friends. How can I do that if I'm not a part of this basketball team? Like, how am I going to stay in shape if I'm not a part of this basketball team? But when I got the yes from ASB, I really didn't expect it to shape my high school experience the way that it did, but it ended up being one of the best choices I ever made in my life, to go out and try out for it. And I mean, yeah, like if I didn't, it's tough too, because I don't want to, even now trying to talk about it, I don't want to say, oh, this was good that this happened and it was bad that this happened, because again, that's practicing judgmental thinking, and we're trying to practice on the non-judgmental parts of it. But so I can see how this could be a difficult practice, but that's what it is. It's a practice. You have to work at it, right? So when I think of the story of the old Taoist farmer, when I think about my experience with basketball and ASB in high school, a couple of things that it makes me think is that we have to do a better job of spending less time trying to decipher what every situation is that gets thrown our way. Instead, we should just take them for what they are and enjoy the ride. You'd be surprised at the outcome once you give the situation time to breathe. I know we seem to be in really dark times with COVID, with police brutality, with the race, like, so, I mean, honestly, the list goes on and on, where it is extremely difficult to not place like that something is good or something is bad, because we've seen a lot of things that look pretty fucking bad, you know? But whatever happens, you know, just try to remind yourself that when one door closes, a window opens somewhere. That was corny, but whatever. The scales will balance out, and, you know, you will most likely grow from the situation. It won't be easy, but it will be. So let it be. The challenge for this week is to practice non-judgmental thinking with different situations that pop up in your life. This is not going to be easy, and it's not something I expect you to master in a week. I know I haven't. All I ask at the very least is that you give it a try. And if you do need some tools on how to actively practice non-judgmental thinking, go ahead and check out episode 44 for a refresher. That episode is still live, and I will probably do another revisit later on down the line with some updated activities or ways that you can practice non-judgmental thinking. But it starts in here. I'm pointing at my heart. And it also starts right here. I'm pointing at my head. My brain. I'm pointing at my brain. But a lot of the times we are not our thoughts, right? Well, all the time we're not our thoughts. So we got this. We can do this. Just remember to be patient with yourself and know that the first step is just acknowledging. If you can acknowledge, like, oh, I just, you know, pass a judgment on a situation or on a thought. I just said that this was good. And maybe it is good. But really, when we're talking about mindfulness and we're practicing how to be mindful, really being mindful is just about being present in the moment. It's not assigning whether something is good or bad, because once we do that, then our focus moves to, oh, this is a good thing. How is it good for me? How am I benefiting from this? Or, oh, this is a bad thing. Oh my gosh, how is this going to affect me in the long run? You know, like when you start assigning things, it takes the focus away. And that's not what we want when we are practicing mindfulness. We just want to be present in the moment and acknowledge, oh, I feel this way. Oh, I feel that way. Oh, I see this. Oh, I want this. Oh, I'm craving this. Like just being mindful in the present moment. Oh, I hear this. You know, that's what being mindful is all about. Being present is all about being present, because once we start thinking about other things, we are no longer present. And that's really what I want to kind of get y'all to understand. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has been a pleasure per usual, and I will catch y'all next week. Bye. Thank you for listening. Please make sure to check out my website, MamMaJism.com, to stay updated on new episodes, blog posts, and exclusive features. If you like this episode, don't forget to share it with a friend, as well as leaving a review on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe, like, or follow on all the socials at MamMaJism. MamMaJism is recorded, mixed, and produced by MamMaJ. The meditation music is provided by Chris Collins at indiemusicbox.com. The theme music is provided by DP the Unknown, and the song is titled Here, If. Until we meet again, please be kind to one another. And from the bottom of my heart, I love you.
I'm feeling so